Okay, so software. This class, the digital imaging class, is going to require software. Um, Most common software in the industry is going to be Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop. Um, this page here in the modules, it's going to be, let me go back real quick and just show you. This is the page I'm looking at right here. It's this. This is going to be the tutorial. I haven't actually made it yet, but um, this is the document I'm looking at right here. And I provided this document because it has these links to different options that are available to you. It's really important you understand that in this class, I'm going to be using Adobe Photoshop. And I highly recommend that you use Adobe Photoshop. Talking to industry, we often have people come and talk to us and ask this question specifically, and pretty much every one of them say Adobe Photoshop. That's the industry standard. That's what we use. So even though there are options, this is the industry standard. So I highly recommend it. However, it does cost money, and so that can be a bit of an issue. So I wanted to give some options for people to try out different, um, different approaches to handling this class in your software. But again, I would highly recommend this one right here, which is the Adobe Suite. And if you click on this link, you're going to come to this area. You can see that you get a 60% discount as a student. So normally you would be paying $52 a month. That is a month, and this is a year subscription, so you can't just do 3 months or whatever. You're purchasing 1 year. Um, and you can see that your first year is going to be at this price, and then after that, so it's not like they give you some discount. It's quite a bit, but it's not free, and that's kind of a bummer. But it is a really useful software. And when you get this, you're not just getting Photoshop. This is the Creative Suite. So you're getting all of these software. So you get Photoshop, which primarily is what we'll use in this class. I am actually going to talk about Illustrator and use Illustrator because you'll notice that this is a vector graphic and illustration software where this is an image and compositing software. And so this is called raster images. And it's real important that this, if you do use other software, that you use software that takes advantage of um, raster type imaging. But Premiere Pro, this is the editing software that we use in our class. We use almost all of these softwares. Lightroom, so our digital photography course can use Lightroom a lot, and this is a really powerful and good program. InDesign for layout, page layout, for graphic design. Not really so interested in Spark. I don't think we use Spark. Um, don't think we really use XD or this Premiere. I don't even know what Premiere Rush does. Obviously, Acrobat is a really nice software, and not all of us use, but it is kind of cool to be able to create and sign PDF documents. It's kind of helpful. It is, obviously PDF documents there's a lot of free programs for that, but it is pretty cool actually. Um, you also get cloud storage, which is kind of cool. That's 100 gigabytes of storage. So, you know, storage seems like it's all over the place nowadays, but that's a fair amount of storage. 100 gigabytes, that's pretty cool. So there's stuff here that you get for that price. That's it's a value, especially if you're taking more than one class with us. Um, let's see, let's click on this and see if it gives us all of these. Um, if you look at it this way, you can see that you can buy these separately. You'll notice that they kind of come in. You'll end up spending a little bit more money on them, but this is a software that we use a lot. Animate. This is used to be called Flash. So the 2D animators use this a lot, although we are kind of moving on from there. After Effects is a great application that we use a lot. The Substance is really cool, and this is something that we're looking to try and get involved with a little bit more, but it is kind of expensive for our department. But so there's a lot of options here to take a look at. I would really encourage you to look at the Creative Cloud in general, and that really should include all of the software that they have. But let me come back. But this here should cover you for the most part of everything that we're looking for. That's the Photoshop option. And like I said, I highly recommend this option. But let's take a look at some of the others. So I'm noticing here that I did, oh no, there's GIMP. Okay, so I thought it didn't put GIMP. That's the Adobe Photoshop solution. And some of the cons to that is that it's a subscription and that you have to buy it for a year. So that's whatever, $240 roughly for a year. Some of the other options are here. So this Affinity is another style of, or another company that makes this type of software. It's a lot of people are talking about it. I believe it's $50. It basically does a lot of the same stuff. It's getting a lot of awards. It seems to be doing all of the same type of work that we do: raw editing, stitching, batch processing, PSD, which is great because that's the Photoshop document, multi-layer composition, retouching, digital painting. So it has all of the same sorts of tool sets that we'd want in this type of application. So it's a lot more manageable in terms of price. I believe $50 if I'm correct. Let's click on buy now. Yeah, $50, and that's not a recurring cost. You know, so it's a good option. It's not a lot, it's not the industry standard. I'm not currently using it. I have to say, all of the other options I haven't used that much. So, I would encourage you guys to try a free trial for a little while, see how it works for you. You could do that with Photoshop as well. Just try a bunch of free trials and not make your decision right off the bat and decide how you want to approach it. I know Photoshop is only 1 month though, so it's not going to cover you. Free trials and going to cover you for an entire course time. And I'd seen probably Affinity similar. But this is a really good option. A lot of people are talking about Affinity. But we almost moved to this software, but industry's just not buying it. They want to have Photoshop. But in my opinion, it's really not so much about the software. It's about technique. So this seems like a really good software, quite frankly. You can see that it's doing pretty much all the things that we would normally do. The refined selections. This seems like a really good option. I would highly recommend checking this one out. Going back, another one that this is Corel Paint Shop Pro. So that was Affinity right here, and again it's Mac PC. All of these are Mac PC, I'm sure. This also has an iPad version I see, so I put that on there. But this is Corel Paint Shop Pro. This is another really, these guys have been around for a long time. This is a really powerful software. I kind of think of this software as a little bit more painter formatted, like more about painting than about photography. So you might want to think about it that way, but it is obviously they're doing photography in it. will do theoretically all of the same stuff that we'll do in Photoshop. It, it's going to have all the same stuff. Um, again, retouch, plugin, templates, batch processing, HDR, raw. You could see that here's artificial intelligence. We talked about that just a moment ago, right? So it's going to take advantage of all the same sort of technique and methodologies that we would in Photoshop, and for the most part, it would also be just fine. This works good, and it's also actually fairly industry standard, even though people don't necessarily talk about it that much. It has quite a following, and this isn't a new software. This is legacy. This has been around as long as Photoshop, probably, or close to it anyway. I don't know full history, but it's been around for a long time. It's had different names at different times, but they've been making software for a long time. So this is not like a sudden thing. It's well known, and you can see uh, this has right now a 10% discount. I don't know how long that'll last, but this is $70. So again, in terms of like price, it's pretty reasonable. And my understanding, this is not a subscription style payment scheme. So again, not like Photoshop that's going to be a subscription style. So again, try it out for 30 days. Try them all, really, I would say, but and just see how this works for you. Um, Again, not really using this. I don't use this software, so I'm not familiar as much with all of the different things, but this looks real familiar in terms of layers, and the tool sets look similar, and I've worked with different types of software, so that's a crop tool, that's a text tool. I can tell you right now, that's a zoom tool. That's a paintbrush, that's an eraser. Like I can see these things, and they're basically going to be what this is some sort of visibility thing, right? This is like some sort of color, right? This is a selection. That's to pick colors. This is to move things, So I can tell you right off the bat that I can tell you what those do without knowing the software at all, just by the pictures, and I know that through Photoshop, and so that's going to make sense. And Photoshop is really laid out real similar. Here's your layers, and I can see the layers. I can move layers around. There's like some sort of function, a linking, a locking. It's going to have blending modes, and it's in normal. This is an opacity probably. Like I can read this. I know what I'm looking at because Photoshop is similar, and everyone's really kind of in some way copying Photoshop. And so you're going to find that most of them are going to be real similar, right? Some sort of selection thing here. It's the refining of selection, and here's a gradient. So these things are all understandable to me because I know Photoshop, and so I don't think it's, again, important so much the software, but rather the technique. And even though I'm not necessarily going to be pulling out, okay, the paintbrush tool, but you can see, oh, I'll grab the paintbrush tool and I'm going to paint. And once you start actually painting, you'll probably find that everything that we do in Photoshop you can do here. So those are two really good pay style, maybe a little more reasonable in terms of price, but and they're not like crazy weird software that no one's ever heard of. These are established software that are being used in the industry currently, and so these are really powerful and good software. Let's get into some free options. So the free options you're going to find are going to be a little more cumbersome. They have their option. They have their their not options, but they have their positives. Let's talk about GIMP to start with. GIMP is actually really old, been around for a long time. It's an open source software, meaning that people can write code and source for it, and it updates constantly. This is what it looks like. It's free. It's going to do pretty much all the same things again that all the other softwares will do. It's just really going to be. I find GIMP to be its interface to be kind of funky a little bit. It takes time to learn its interface. Um, I always wanted to act like Photoshop, and it doesn't act like Photoshop a little bit. So, you know, if I can use Photoshop, I would. I do actually have this on one of my machines because I don't have Photoshop on it. Um, and you know, the main issue is that I just don't use it often enough, and so I don't really know my way around it as much. But it certainly does all the things that I would expect it to do for digital imaging software, um, and runs really quite well. It's for free software, pretty awesome. Cool thing about it also is that it downloads onto your machine, so you're actually using it on the machine. So if you don't have internet connection, you can still use it. So it's pretty great that way. Updates a lot. There's a lot of uh, tutorials on it. It's a pretty um, robust uh, culture that uses this software, and so it's like I said, it's been around for a long time and really worth taking a look at. Um, Another free software. This one's actually really pretty cool. It's called Pixlr. See, I have it open here. Pixlr is owned by Autodesk, and they do Maya, 3D Studio Max. They own almost everything. They got their start with AutoCAD. If anyone knows that, that's how that works. Um, so they have some different versions. So I'm realizing I haven't checked this out. Let's just open that and see. This is the photo editor online. I can open an image. So, you know, I can just go to an image that, say, I have here. You can see it opens an image, and I can do stuff with this. So I can crop it. I can retouch. You can paint on it. Yeah, and so you can see that this is actually online. I'm actually working with this online. It's not a downloaded software. So what's cool about this is you don't even have to have software. You can just run this anywhere at all. Like you just log in and start working with it from any computer anywhere. Um, you have to have a fairly good internet connection, but you can see that it has text and it has the different, you know, some effects and filters, and I can adjust some colors and stuff like that. There's cutouts and cropping and moving and arranging, and you know, and there's stuff I can do here. You know, I can work with layers, as you can see over here, and I can add a layer. I can do an empty layer and can work with this layer, and um, this layer is locked, so I don't know. There it's unlocked. Can hide that layer. Can work on this layer. I can change my color. You know, there's size and hardness and softness, and we'll talk more about these things as we, you know. So I have a bunch of tool sets that that I can work with. Um, there's shapes and spike. You know, so like I said, you're gonna find that brushes are, there's a lot of stuff that we can learn about brushes. It's not like super full featured, but I can see that there's a bunch of stuff that I can work with. Um, and so this is Pixlr, and it's just online. It's that's one of the real main benefits of Pixlr, and I actually find myself using this software a lot when I'm on a computer that I don't have, someone else's computer or something or whatever. I can just totally do it, do this work from anywhere, which I think is pretty awesome. And it, for the most part, can do, like I said, most of the things that we want to do, and works relatively very similar to Photoshop. So this is a great option. It's free. It's a great place to start if you just want to get going right now, right today, like right this moment. This is a pretty fun software to work with, and you can kind of just start building something from it. Um, let's see if I close this. I close it. It says active. And create a new one too. So I could do, like you could just say make a new, um, well, here's 1080 by 1920, and we'll create it. Kind of weird shape, but and then I can go into my paintbrushes again and start drawing out. shape or whatever, and with my sizes, and you can take a look at some of the other stuff we're showing. You can see it's like having a hard time keeping up with my the web, and the painting at the same time. But this is pretty cool. It's like a great software, great company. Autodesk is really established software company. It's been around for a really long time, and they definitely have been upgrading this software as they go. And the cool thing is that you don't have to download it or change it. It just updates on its own. Pretty great software. And if you save this, I can literally save this right back onto, I can give it a name, and I can download it, and it's gonna, where's it gonna put it? It's gonna, I'll save the file, I'll say okay, and basically I'm downloading the image, and it's gonna, went into my, my download folder, and so now I actually have this image. And so again, really useful tool, and I highly recommend taking a look at this one as well. This is the last one. It's called BeFunky, and frankly, this is the one I know the least about. I don't really know. I got this from someone else. When I'm looking at it, it feels a little substandard to me, a little bit, in that it looks like a little maybe prosumer, like in other words, like not industry standard but maybe more like kind of looks like Instagram stuff to me, quite frankly. But so I don't know this one very well. I guess I wouldn't highly recommend it. But one of my fellow instructors put it in a list of software that they thought was worth looking at. So I'm not going to spend too much time looking at it. I think that if I were going to do free version, I would probably go with Pixlr or GIMP. I think that those two are by far the best and the most supported, and they're both. GIMP is really old and been running for a long time, and Autodesk is just a huge company that's just really on top of their software and really making great stuff. So those are some options for you. Like I said, this is the best option because I'm going to be using Photoshop on all my tutorials, and so you'll find that everything will match perfectly. So this is by far the most recommended software for the class, but you can certainly check out the others and use them if you want. And there are probably maybe a couple other that you might find that are out there available. One of the things that you want to watch out for is that you're using raster images. So I'm just going to type in the raster software. See that raster software? It's really important as opposed to vector. So this is raster software, and you'll see that there are two different types of software available. And if we look at a raster graphics editor, you're going to find that probably the most common one is going to be Photoshop. It's important that we're using, this is GIMP, by the way, right? So it's important that we're using a raster style software and not a vector style software. So just if you are looking outside of any of my suggestions, that you are using something that's a raster graphics editor, okay? That's kind of critical, okay, that it's raster. Otherwise, it's going to work with photos in a way that we're not interested in. And we will look at vector graphics, and we will actually use Illustrator for that and talk about the differences of raster and vector graphic. But the majority of our work is going to be working with images, most likely photographs. And so we want to have a raster graphics editor rather than a vector graphics editor. So just if you are looking outside of some of the suggestions, that's one thing to just really be careful of. Okay, so I'm going to leave you guys there. And good luck, and make sure you make your decision. And there's a little quiz about your options or what you're going to do. I think right now I'm realizing I didn't put a third option, which would be I'm going to check out some or test some before I make my decision, which is certainly a way you might want to approach it. So I'll let you guys decide how you want to go about it. And if you have any questions, let me know. Um, and yeah, good luck.